Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome to the STiKS Live. We're back as we are every Monday, but this time there is no Landon because he's actually away. He's away in Florida. Probably got his Disneyland Mickey Mouse ears on right now. I don't really blame him getting the kid out of him. But yeah, today's show, though, is myself with Mr. Hitcheride and Michael Kent from DeSoto. If you don't know him, he's from over in the British Isles like me. And we might have someone else joining us. I'm not 100% sure, but we may have a Rare Kingdom joining us a bit later on as well. But as we do before we get started with any show, we're going to kind of go through our introductions. I'm going to start with Hitch because he's the man of the hour at the moment. He seems to be doing so much stuff. So I'm going to let him go first, followed by Mike, and then I'll introduce myself.
What's up, guys? My name is Hitch. I record videos for Optic Gaming, and I'm head of Optic Intel. That's me.
Plain and sweet. Plain and sweet. Michael.
That was a really detailed introduction, Hitch. My name is Michael Kent. I am one of the owners of DeSoto, but I also run all the content on there. And I basically travel around the world to watch people play Call of Duty, or I sit in my living room, one of the two. That's about it, really.
Short and sweet. I like this. We're not rambling on forever. And lastly, myself, my name is Tommy. I do content on YouTube. Also do content for eSports, who are a team over in the UK. That's pretty much all you need to know about me. But what you touched on there, Mike, is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. That's kind of the source of today's show. We're talking about journalism and esports, and the two best people to talk about it are Hitch and Mike, who are at pretty much, it seems like, every event, or someone from DeSoto is at every event over here in the UK at least. And just to start off with that about DeSoto, because obviously it kind of got revitalized in Advanced Warfare. If you just want to touch on that, because it was around way back, but you've got like different visions in DeSoto, haven't you?
Yeah, so if we go back to the start, it was basically, it started with, back in the COD 4 days, I used to run a team called Team Identity. They won the first UK or first European LAN back in COD 4 days. And then basically what happened is we went and ended up splitting. The team went to Dignitas, I went and moved away. And a guy I knew started a website called DeSoto. And then I became part of DeSoto pretty quickly after it was founded. And it was just a place for European Call of Duty players to go and talk. And then it grew into like a news website, and then it became massive. The problem was that by the time I left in like 2012, it was just after EGL 8, where Optic Gaming, obviously you remember Hitch lost to TCM Gaming. Black Ops 2 had just launched, and I decided that I couldn't do it part-time anymore, and if I couldn't do it full-time, which I couldn't at the time, then I wasn't going to do it. So I basically left the whole scene. I didn't like make a big deal of it. I just sort of stopped being involved, basically. And then I was working in just like office jobs, like was working in recruitment at the time. I'd worked in a bit in the banks, but basically the two of the guys that had previously been working on DeSoto, Chris and Josh, they came, well, I was really good friends with them, so I was always in touch with them, but they were like, look, we've got this idea, we're going to get investment, blah, blah, blah. And then basically they contacted me, and I pretty much said yes straight away, handed my notice in that day, and then that was it, really. So when we came back, we had to change from being DeSoto with a C to DeSoto with an X. And that was mainly because of just a number of different legal reasons that essentially we couldn't guarantee we could get all of the company names and the trademarks and everything. We could in the long run, but it would just take so long to do. It was just easier to relaunch with that X, basically. So yeah, so I've been doing it full time now since 2 weeks before COD Champs. So first thing I did was travel out to LA, which was nice. And
Jesus.
then,
so you literally, like, coming into Advanced Warfare, you were just set on whatever job from wherever around the country, and then you got hit by Chris and Josh, and then just this is how it happened.
Yeah. I mean, I'd literally, I'd barely kept in touch with, like, part of me, just because I was frustrated that I couldn't do it full time. I just totally removed myself, and I refused to look at the website, and, you know, and the website wasn't getting updated was the reality as well. It kind of died when I stopped stewarding it, should we say. And yeah, so...
You were the heart of it, in other words.
Exactly. Yeah.
Once you were gone, no going back.
The thing is, the French website was still massive, so that
yeah, I was going to touch on that. Because like the French, did that run just simultaneous with Deserto going down and up as it has?
Yeah, I mean, Deserto France has always had a presence. It's always been online. Like there's always been a lot of people involved with it. And I mean, you just have to look at the stats. But before I left, Deserto and Deserto France was similar. Now Deserto France has like 100,000 Twitter followers. It's got 100,000 subs on YouTube. Like, you know, that is still very much the massive part of it. And now it's about getting the English side and the Spanish and the German like catching up to it basically. But essentially what we want to do is be a neutral point of view for people to listen, learn, like, and just be entertained by Call of Duty esports, and whether that's touching on like really, you know, important issues like drug testing or something like that, or whether it's on, you know, something funny like 5 reasons Hitch's hairs looks like, you know, whoever. So, you know, it's like, it's just trying to sort of embody both of them. So it's just trying to embody both of them basically.
Awesome. Well, just before we kind of go on to talk about Hitch and Optic Intel and all the stuff both of you have already done this year. If you have got any questions in the chat, put them in there. I'll definitely be checking out for some because we're talking about the world of esports and journalism. So if you've literally got anything, just drop it in the chat and we'll try and answer it. But Hitch, Optic Intel, what happened?
Man, CETV was a thing way back in the day, at the end of the Ghost season. And then a bunch of the people from CETV, they basically merged into, or they rebranded themselves as Optic Intel, and Optic Intel was going to be this big thing with stats and fantasy and intel. It was all going to be one thing, and then as it progressively became, or like went down the timeline, those split up into like 3 different things. So there was intel, and then as soon as I realized intel was, or as soon as we all realized that intel was a great outlet to do content, to do entertaining content and informative content, I just started basically busting my butt, uploading all the time and doing videos on Intel, and then stats, they did their own thing, and then fantasy, they did their own thing. Yeah. So that's basically how Intel came to get to its current state.
Awesome. What kind of was your reaction when kind of, because I presume it was Hex that approached you about turning CETV into what it was now? Like, kind of, how did that come about? Did he just contact you and kind of express his ideas and plans about it all?
Well, at first he contacted me, and he wanted a cameraman. So if you know anything, about Hector or Optic in general, it's very hard to get on screen, I guess you could say. Like, it's, I don't know, it's so at first what he wanted was somebody just to film. They wanted to do interviews, but they didn't want to have a personality on camera. So what he came to me for is just to film people. And then I started talking to him, and I was like, we could make this kind of a source fed thing, kind of like have like a team of people, and make it entertaining, have like a personality on Intel that people feel comfortable with as soon as they start watching the videos. And so I guess I convinced them to allow me on screen, and then eventually we were going to have, so it was going to be myself on screen, and then him on screen, and then eventually later down the road we were going to get more and more people on screen to keep it, I guess, comfortable. I don't know. So that's how that came about. Okay.
I mean, it's just crazy the road that both of you have kind of taken across. Because I mean, Mike, you've been in esports probably longer than I've been born, it seems. And obviously, Hitch, you've taken a road from like all the way back from when you did content with UMG, and kind of all the stepping stones you've taken. What would you say is kind of the biggest barrier you've always had in terms of like going to the next level? Is it just about kind of just grinding and just putting out as much and as like good quality content as possible?
What do you mean? Like, so like, what's the hardest part of it all? Or like,
yeah, in a way, yeah.
I think in the past, the hardest part was getting enough money to be able to work full time, or even just being able to get the money to do it. Because like in the past, I mean, people think that maybe I work for Deserto like full time all the time. It wasn't the case. Like I started out with nothing. I think the most I ever got up until EGL8 was £100 a month, and then maybe like I even used to pay to go to get myself to events in the past. So it was always the sort of the hard part was the money to making the money work, and so I had to have a different job and stuff like that. And that's why I jumped at the opportunity to come back full time, because it was like, well, I get to do everything I used to do now, but I'm not coming in at 6, 7 o'clock at night and then working until like midnight 1, and then having to get up and do a normal job again, a normal job that I'd probably spend
two jobs at the same time.
Yeah, a normal job that I'd normally be sort of like on my phone on Deserto anyway. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, I think that was the biggest barrier. I think now the biggest barrier is just trying to get sort of my vision of what I want Deserto like back, if that makes sense. So, trying to get it popular, trying to get people to recognize it, and I suppose getting people to understand what we're trying to do and what we're trying to like work on, basically.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part is trying to now get people to understand who we are again, because we never had a problem in the past with popularity. Everyone knew who we were, but now it's like no one knows who we are. So it's like,
yeah, and you've got so much. You've got so much more competition as well, like Optic Intel and various other eSports Nation. There's so many different.
That's good though, and
I'm not saying it's bad, but yeah,
anything is that there's not enough of these websites. There's not enough people writing content, and the thing that annoys me more than anything ever, and I'm sorry, Hitch, but Optic are guilty of this as well. Although they're so successful, it doesn't matter. Is that why don't any team websites like write news about what they're doing, like especially in the COD scene? Like we've seen a number of big PC orgs coming in now, and they've all written. They all have, like Luminosity today. They all have like news posts and stuff like that. Yeah, and that's part of it as well. It's trying to educate it so that everyone's on the same level, so that it's like it looks more professional as well. Bit of a rant.
Yeah. Is it kind of high risk, high reward? Because you talk about how like you way back you're only on £100 a month. What if anyone's over in the US is really not a lot to live on at all? Is it a lot of just kind of uncertainty and risk in terms of kind of, I mean, I guess Hitch, you'll probably be able to answer this pretty well because the journey you've taken over the last few years.
What about the risk of it?
Yeah, like in doing what you're doing, obviously when you start out, it's not, paid work. It's kind of, it's working your ass off, grinding to a point where you can show people what you're capable of, and hopefully it pays off down the road.
Yeah, once you set yourself in like a track where you can see the future, and like the only way to like veer off of that is to like royally mess up or just do something wrong, then you understand that all you got to do is grind, and eventually you'll get there. And I feel like that's what like Mike and I have in common, is just like we are able to see like that Call of Duty eSports is gonna do nothing but grow. Everybody's gonna whine and moan about it, but as long as it keeps growing, then people are gonna become more interested in content, and so the more you grind, the more people are gonna want to watch. And once you understand that, then it's all about just how motivated you are in doing content.
Pretty plain and simple. Anything to add to that, Mike?
I think like one hard part as well is like trying to not motivate yourself to do it, but sometimes it is. I mean, I work from home, and it's like, at first after being in an office job where there's like a boss constantly looking over you and stuff like that, and now I'm my own boss, and it's like whatever I do is such a massive impact. And it's like, Hitch, although Hex is his boss, Hex is not going to be sat there going, right, you need to edit this now, you need to edit that now. And for me, that's what it's always been like, someone always telling me what to do. So now it's like, like I don't, but if I wanted to line until midday, I could. But then for line to midday, I'm like, oh no, I've got to like do another. I've got 10 hours of stuff to do. I'm not going to finish till 10 o'clock tonight. So like, it's the discipline is so hard. And I think that's one thing maybe people don't appreciate as well. Is it is amazing working in esports, but it's not easy. Not easy at all.
No, not easy. Countless all-nighters. Like even at events like. At events, like Mike and I are like the first to get there and literally like the last to leave every single night. And people just don't understand that. People think that all we do is hop on the camera and say.
As soon as the stream goes, you just go home. But
yeah,
no, it's not
exactly. It's not like that at all. Especially, man, there's been events, especially like X Games, the X Games, by the time the four of us left, there was like not a Call of Duty person in sight. Like nobody at X Games. Like everyone was gone. They had already started like showering up and getting ready to go out and stuff, and we were still just organizing and cutting clips and stuff like that. So it's a hard, and you can really tell, like if you grind content, then you really have an eye for other people that also grind and are giving it their all.
Yeah,
and
you understand. You have like more respect for them because you're going through exactly the same transition as they're going through in terms of, and it's a struggle. Like, I mean, I can't directly relate it to YouTube, but I can in a way with my YouTube content that, you know, it's always that like you want to get something out consistently, otherwise it's like you're missing a day, and then what's the repercussions of it, etc.
No, yeah, that's why you're gonna find huge success, because you're grinding content. You've been grinding content for like 2 years.
Well,
and I like told Anthony, I was like, we need this dude. We need him now.
You're taking the credit, are you?
I've said that. Ask him, Tommy. Haven't I taken the credit?
I will say yes. I mean, I'm trying not to blush here, but yeah, I will respect that. But moving back to journalism,
I tried to get you to do work for us, Tommy, and then you piped me off.
You did for a bit, but then it snapped from your grasp. So I'm sorry. You should have offered me. You should have offered me food. Food always goes down well with me. But anyway, back onto journalism. So. We've kind of with both of your roles, obviously you two are the faces of DeSoto and Intel respectively, but it's a massive team effort if I'm not mistaken. I don't know exactly you know how much kind of work goes into it, but I can imagine that you have obviously writers, you have people that do graphics and stuff like that within both DeSoto and Optic Intel, who obviously all together come together to collectively make content. But obviously Hitch, with you, because you're the figurehead, you're the person that they see in front of the camera, people may think that it's just you doing literally everything.
You want me to answer that, or Mike?
Yeah, well, yeah, I want you to tell me if it is that the case or not.
Is it just me doing everything? It's just me tweeting and editing and getting.
Yeah, you might just have like 1,000 thumbs.
No, it's not that way at all. There's a team. The team used to be a lot bigger than it was, but then like I said before, like Fantasy and Stats started doing their own thing, and then we just started kind of talking to each other as like the heads of each of those. But yeah, we have a head writer, a head of social, a social team, and an editor, a graphics person. I mean, we have every like people that basically are experts in their field, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, I get what you mean, and I presume it's the same with you, Mike. And obviously the main people who I know about are obviously yourself, Josh, and Chris. Is there anyone else behind the scenes that we don't know about that just you store in a cupboard and you kind of let them out for some air every once in a while?
I've got like a few writers that I rely on for like big pieces. Like there's a guy called STiKS, and he might maybe write something like once a week or once every 2 weeks. But to be honest, most of the time it is me just doing everything. But there's also like Chris and Josh, they obviously do work as well. We've got Nico, who runs the French website, and he also runs like the Spanish and the German. And to be honest, a lot of sometimes I'll just translate their articles. I mean, there's a big team. But like Hitch says, in the past, like I maybe had like 100 people doing volunteer work for me. We had like 50 moderators. We had, insane amount of people like helping with DeSoto, and some of those people I still speak to now, even though they're not even involved in esports. So
yeah,
but it's mainly I'd say it's the majority of the work is me, but that's going to change because what's going to happen is I'll sit in more of a position where I direct people to help me. But it's just, to be honest, I find it extremely difficult to find people I can trust to do content because it's not
I think you bored Hitch. It sounds like a choo-choo train is, but like he's just gone. Yeah, carry on anyway.
I find it really hard to find people that I can trust to write because for me it's all between like if it takes me longer to edit what they've done, then I might as well have done it in the first place. So it's kind of a difficult situation, but that's hopefully going
to like do the job but do it right rather than doing it incorrectly and you having to go back and kind of correct it or like make changes, whatever.
being a terrible guest.
If you heard that stream, yeah.
What's up?
Nothing. We're just talking about you while you're gone. Don't worry about it.
You called yourself a terrible guest.
Yeah. And we also have a new guest. Well, I say no. I did tell you at the start of the show, guys. Kingdom is finally back. I think you just took the kids to
Disneyland.
somewhere. Disneyland. Oh, they're going with Landon.
Oh, is Landon at Disneyland?
Yeah. Oh, you probably won't get that because you don't know that. Yeah. Anyway, Kingdom is here.
No, I wouldn't let Landon around my kids.
Relevant moment. The casters are also there, so
That's kind of worrying. What's wrong with Landon? Just on the topic.
What's wrong with him?
So unprofessional.
If he's watching this now, he's gonna be like, "Oh God."
Have you ever seen the dance he does at the end of his YouTube videos? That's what's wrong.
You know
That's the sole reason you wouldn't let your kids know him. Anyway, let's continue. Kingdom, welcome to the show. We're talking about journalism, talking about Deserto, Intel, two of the biggest kind of, I guess you call them orgs out there at the moment that are producing content, especially for Call of Duty, obviously. Are the hopes to breach out into other esports, just putting it out there?
Yeah, I mean, we already do kind of barely cover Halo and Gears of War, but there just really isn't a lot to talk about there. And what we've also started to do now is we're doing a bit more. You might have seen some of them up already, like a bit more entertainment pieces, which are like involved with Call of Duty esports, but not directly involved with it. So stuff like when the hoverboard things got banned, we wrote a news post about it because we knew people would be interested. And weirdly, that was like the most successful news post we did for the entire week.
Really?
Like, yeah. So
I do admire.
I didn't even hear about that.
Their creativity and kind of versatility in terms of the content you guys do get out, because some of the ideas you think of are just mad crazy, but they work.
Thanks. Well, yeah, like I mean, the one I've received the most plaudits for, but also the worst plaudits for, was Escalator Entertainment. And I literally I came down the escalator and Hitch was sat with some fat security guard, like doing some editing just in a total random place, and I was like, you know, it'd be a great idea for a series. And he was like, what? I was like, quick fire questions down the escalator. And he was like, oh, I'm going to steal that idea. And I was like, well, instead of stealing it, we could just kind of do it together. And he was like, yeah, right, fine.
What was, you got some pro players to do it. What was their reaction when you explained it to them? Like, were they just like, what is this?
It's got to the point where I'm at every event now, so people just kind of know who I am. Like, at that event as well, Karma walks past me and he goes, "You're just everywhere." And I was like, well, I mean, it's kind of have to be. But yeah, I mean, I've got a good relationship with a lot of the players. But the best part about Escalator Entertainment is that they didn't really have a choice, because when you're at the top of the escalator, you could only go down, and you were only going down anyway. So they thought, well, it might as well. And because it's just quick fire questions, then it was pretty easy to convince them. I don't think anyone said no.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten to the point Mike's crazy enough, whereas, like, as soon as you see him walking up to you, like, if you're a pro player, you're like, oh, no. Something he's going to ask me
secretly, everyone's like, oh, no, that Mike dude from Britain's coming. Oh, no, run away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. Well, they're like, where's your funny accent from? But it's like, part of me, it's good with a lot of the pro players, a lot of them don't mind, but I don't know, I feel like with some pro players, it's like they don't realize that if they want to make this a big, serious deal, then they need to like get on camera as much as they can. They need to be like, they should be coming up and asking me to go on to do an interview, because the reality is, without the press, then it's just always going to stay tiny. So
yeah, I completely agree. I think we can all agree that the press, as I like the way you word that, because it is basically press, do have a massive influence that I think people don't realize about kind of spreading the word about various stories, various players, etc. With both you guys, is it a lot easier that you have these relations with teams, with players, in terms of making content? Because I know Hitch, with some of the past Optic Intel content you've made, like Do You Know Your Duo, etc., is a lot relied on kind of knowing personalities and being able to approach people and go, hey, will you be in a video?
Yeah, like however, like it's a lot easier, obviously, whenever you are comfortable with talking to somebody. Like any new series that I've ever started, I start off with Sharp, because I know he's just like down for anything. Like he's just down for whatever. I mean,
He's
even
the pilot test.
you do that as well. It's just
Yeah.
Sharp, right? Sharp is the person.
Sharp always says yes. Like when I found out that he'd brought his car to Columbus, I was like,
Exactly.
gonna go in his car. Like, but yeah, no, Sharp is good. There's a few people that you kind of you go to people, but generally, I think like most people don't mind if you ask them. It's just having the balls to ask them, but also just being like, you're gonna do this interview with me, like rather than just being like, oh, please, can you do it?
Yeah.
You just got to kind of have a bit of confidence about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So Kingdom, to bring you kind of into conversation, is there anything you would like to ask or add at all?
No, I agree with what they're saying. I think when we started the STiKS, that was like when we got our first pro player, which I think was Tipsy. You know, we were like, wow, and then we got Imbos, and then kind of the floodgates opened because we booked him before he joined Optic, and then he joined Optic, and we had him on a few days later. And of course, he just blew up like what's happening to Hitch right now, moving into the house. Like he just exploded. And so now he's Optic Imbos coming on, and I interviewed him, and it was like that opened the door for me. And then when we did the STiKS, it was like the same thing. But I agree with what Mike is saying. You have to have confidence. Like if I go into a DM and say, hey, I know that you don't know me, and you know, I'm just this guy that does these roster change things, but can you maybe come on the STiKS? Yeah, it's the show that we started. Like,
do you ever get DMs like that?
Me?
Like when people DM you like that?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
a lot of emails. Oh yeah.
I was just like, we've all been there. We've all been there.
You know what my pet peeve with it all is, right? And I don't do this. I ideally don't do this. Is when people want something off you on Skype and they just say, "Hey, how are you?" And it's like, just ask me whatever you want. Like,
they're getting somewhere. They're just taking their time.
But I think the key thing with pro players, and something that I've definitely done well at over the course of the last few months, is just treat them like normal people. And like, you know, they're just some kid, well, not necessarily kids, they're young guys who are playing competitively. You know, speak to them like you would anyone else that age. You shouldn't be intimidated and think that there's some like, you know, superstar and stuff. It's like they're still just a normal person. Like if you treat them differently, then they will treat you differently at the end of the day. And like another thing is, I suppose, for any aspiring journalists, if someone tells you something in confidence, you just kind of just don't say anything about it. Like there's a lot of things that I've heard and people have said, and it's just like, just for the greater good, don't say anything. If you hear it from like loads of people, then maybe you could put something out about it. But like, and constantly I'll be out like drinking or whatever with the players, and they'll be like, "Oh, don't say anything." It's like I would have said something like a long time ago about something you said then, if that was the case. Like, but
it is crazy. Yeah. Like it is weird. Like knowing that it is basically like our job or like our responsibility to put out the news. And then so many people come up to you every event. They're like, "Hey, listen to this. You can't say anything, but listen to this." It was like, man.
It must be like a tease because of what you guys do. It's like my job is to report on the news, and you're telling me there's something I can't tell the people that watch the news that we produce. It's like,
but the reality is that we're not in a situation where we can divulge that kind of information yet. If this isn't the mainstream media yet, and the reality is we need to be a lot bigger before we could do that. At the same time, if you know something, you can generally get someone to tell you officially quicker. So like I'll get information off people, and then I'll like go to say like Activision, I'll be like, I kind of know this, what's the deal? And then they'll be like, all right, cool, we're gonna announce it here, here, and here, and then it's like, right, and then you're up to speed. Like if you keep secrets and keep in the loop, then you just learn more and more and more.
And you gain respect.
Don't trust Mike. He publishes everything, which just isn't true. I could tell you many stories.
What's up, Benson? I think it's like even before this show, there's a pro player that basically told us that he has a team that we didn't know had a team already. And so it's kind of like it was like right before the show started. And so it happens. The funny thing about it is it happens all the time. But of course, there are those ways that you can almost like at least leak that you know something without saying something. And it kind of gets people to pay attention to your medium so that when, you know, whether it's coming from Deserto or whatever, they know that when something happens, this is where I'm going. This is my source. You know, I'm going to go to Intel, or I'm going to go to Tommy, or I'm going to go to Landon, because, you know, people follow Landon just because Landon knows a lot more than he tweets out. You know, he knows a
Oh
lot
yeah,
more
Landon
than
tells
the
a
pros tell him
lot
a lot.
to us
Yeah.
that I didn't know about, and I don't know where he gets his sources for, but a lot of the time
The
they are
pros.
accurate, and that just goes back to obviously what Mike was saying about knowing things, but not necessarily feeling the need to just tell everyone to kind of have the attention on you.
Yep.
Well, I definitely think that's something I've learned from kind of my little area, if you will, in terms of if you do find stuff out, just it's not worth it. I mean, you may think of it as good, but long term, it's going to do you better not to tell people stuff that you know and aren't meant to tell, etc. But just kind of wrapping up about journalism stuff. What are the biggest cons of being in esports journalism? What is it? I mean, you talked about having like how you're the first to be there, the last to leave. What besides that is kind of the worst things about the jobs you have?
Tell the
I'd say
truth.
like I'd say like getting the rejection is tough sometimes when you do ask people for interviews and they're like, no, I've just lost, and you're like, you just want to just explode and be like, this is why you should, blah blah blah. But then, you know, it's not the end of the world. Most people do it. Then I think like the discipline thing I said obviously is tough. Events are really tough. And I mean, for me, I love the traveling, so I don't mind too much. But I am away from my girlfriend for like a week, and she hates that. So it's like, you know, you get beef for
It's a tug
that.
of war.
And yeah,
She
and
hates
then I
that?
think she hates me being away apparently. And
Can't get enough of you.
it's hard to say. I think for me at the moment, it's like trying to think of new ideas and trying to think of things that I've not done before and trying to be creative.
Yeah,
And
it's so hard.
that's so hard because I mean, I like to think of like weird stuff to do, and it's like, oh, can I do that? Is that too risky? Am I pushing the boundaries too much? And it's like, at the
And
moment,
then you go to
especially,
shop, and he's like, "I'll do it," and then you're like,
yeah.
"I've got an idea."
But it's like this week, this week it's only Monday, isn't it? Like I've just totally like, I've totally like,
You really don't sleep.
don't know what I'm gonna do this week. Like, but I'll pull some out of the bag. I just don't know yet.
Yeah, I
I
think
want
a
to
lot
hear.
of,
Go ahead, Tommy.
so I was just gonna say, I think a lot of content creators sometimes are like that. Some will obviously be prepared, but when it's like news, if there's no news, then it's it's a struggle. Like if you got to kind of, as you said, be creative with different things that you can use stuff from the past to create content for the future, etc. But yeah, I think you were gonna say we want to hear Hitch's side of this.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I want to hear his opinion on what are the cons of being in media
And
being
be truthful.
a part of the
Oh, and lastly, sorry, technology.
press.
Jesus Christ, technology.
Oh, it's a struggle
What? Oh,
when that
it's terrible.
file gets corrupt.
The hardest part, man, I guess in my situation was just the grind of it. Like when you first start, you're addicted to the results, and then like 5 months later, you realize everybody hates AW. So then you're like, what am I supposed to do now? Because nobody is attracted to like the actual like content. Like you have to be creative in and of yourself. So you have to like be super exaggerated on camera, or you have to do something that's like extremely like entertaining. Like you have to start like the do you know your duo stuff, or like the goofy questions that Mike does, like awkward questions. Like there's you just always have to be kind of like a step ahead in order to keep people entertained, and that's like an insane grind. Especially in my case, like I wasn't working full time, so I'd come home from my full time job and then brainstorm and then record and then plan out all of the stuff that I was going to do, and it's tiring even like thinking about what all I've done. Like I don't know. It's just the grind of it is hard sometimes.
Yeah. Anything else in terms of cons?
Where do you get your Hitch? You grew a channel that was basically the core of the channel was Call of Duty commentary and content around from the Call of Duty community and from LANs. Where do you get your ideas from? Like, how did you? Because you were able to grow that channel, Optic Intel, and grow the Twitter during the time, like you said, a bad game. And we were looking right before this. There's pros who basically almost permanently damaged their YouTube. They almost would have been better waiting until Black Ops 3 came out to start posting videos, because there's pros that are getting half of your views or a third, and they have 60,000 or 70,000 subscribers. And so, where did you get your ideas from, and how did you push through the grind to make sure you were creating original content?
I just took. I don't know. I just like.
He just calls me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm stuck. I've got
Like,
no
what are you guys
videos
working
for this
on?
week.
Oh, you're gonna come out with that next month? All right, I have a new series starting next week.
Well, like as I first started, like watching pretty much anything, watching sports, watching like
Yeah.
TV shows. I always kind of like there was a part of me that was like, man, I want to know more about that person. Like I want to know more about like my favorite. Like at first it was like Marshall Faulk. Like I want to know more about this person. I want to know what he's like. I want to know who he's close with and things like that. So then when I finally got that position in esports, I was like, I have the ability to like share this with other people, and so it ended up working out. I think that's why stuff like Do You Know Your Duo was like extremely extremely well received.
Well, and that's before you take back over, Tommy. Like when people always ask how I grew, it wasn't just because I was talking about rosters, blah blah blah. I realized at some point that people wanted to know more about these players than the game. So even if the game was horrible, my channel was still going to grow. Like during Ghost, I grew. It's like, even though the game was horrible, but it's because people want to know about these pros. They want to know what they think. They want to know what they like, even what they wear, what their room looks like. I mean, we can see with the 700,000 views on the Scuff House video or whatever. But it's like people are interested in that side of gaming, and that's the side that can be unique. Like COD profiles, that was huge. And so I think that for the content creators that are watching us, that are doing COD commentaries and what should I talk about? What should I talk about? How to do rotations. And no, the pro players make content now. Nobody, like a community person is not like a Hitch or me or Tommy or Landon is not going to be able to get a whole bunch of views by putting out videos that are about how to rotate on certain maps. Like that, the pro players are doing that. They would rather watch TP. But what you can do is you can put out videos on the players themselves that are even higher quality than what they're putting out and give out more information. So just my thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to add to it, I think one of the biggest things from my personal experience is like, obviously when you start anything, it's new, but like it's adapting to know why people are watching your content. It's not just putting out what you want to put out all the time. What is joyful, it's really nice when you can put out stuff that you enjoy making and people enjoy watching. That's like the ideal scenario. But a lot of the times what I found from my personal experience, from not being a massive personality or anything like that, it's about knowing what works for your channel and what you put out, and like what people are realistically going to watch. What a lot of times is kind of news to do with roster changes, opinions on should this roster disband or should this happen, or news on a new event or whatever it be. And I'm pretty sure it's pretty similar with Mike and Hitch in terms of knowing what kind of things work, and that's where kind of the brainstorming happens. So a lot of ideas that you think maybe could work don't even happen, and that's kind of the process it goes through. But just before we go to a commercial break, I just wanted to kind of talk about the Matrix in terms of not the films, but as in the content matrix, because it just seems like there's more content now than ever. Like you go back a few years back to Modern Warfare 3 and it was so hard to find VOD and content about COD esports, and now there's so many people doing it. Like what kind of advice would you give to anyone that is trying to break out and be a part of this community that we've formed?
I just say, like, if you want to make content, just do it and just see what happens. Like, there's nothing you can know about. I mean, like, approach big websites and say, "Oh, can I write for you?" But don't just say, "Can I write for you?" and then say, "Well, what are you going to write?" And be like, because that's what happens all the time. People are like, "Oh, I'd love to write for Deseo," and it's like, "Well, what do you want to write about?" And they're like, "Oh, well, you just tell me." And it's like, well, that's the main part. That's the main problem I have, is like trying to learn how what I need to post about. It's like, come to me with ideas, like, that kind of thing. But maybe, just do it. Basically, just like make sure that you do good quality, and also just make sure it's worth the time that you do it as well. Like, don't, if you're doing written stuff, which is pretty much what I focus on compared to say Hitch, who does like all video, I'll do majority of my time is written. I'll do some video. If you're doing written content, make sure the grammar's right. There's no spell mistakes. If you read it back, does it read well? You know, that's the simple thing. If you've done that, then it doesn't really matter what you write. You know, as long as you promote it in the right way, as long as you try and get the right people to see it, then it'll eventually work out.
Anything to add, Hitch?
No.
No, nothing. Okay, well, let me give my personal experience. I try not to do this because I don't like talking about it, but like so say you're here, like anyone watching is here, you don't do any content. I'm like a bit of a step up, and then there's obviously these guys who I'm talking to, who you all know. And like for me, it's like Mike said, it's not saying, oh, I'd really like to do what he did, but it's like it's having ideas of what you're going to do, and it's trying not to be what your favorite person is doing. So like I've always really liked what Kingdom's content was, and Hitch's. So it's not me then saying, well, I'm going to do exactly the same as them, because no one's going to watch. If I'm doing exactly the same, why would they watch me when they could just watch these two guys who are far more better in a way? So for me, it was about finding kind of an avenue, and it's still a struggle, I'd admit that, because Call of Duty is so saturated in the content that is produced, in trying to just be different. Really, it's so hard to be creative, but if you can find an avenue where you can do something regularly and it's different and it's enjoyable and you enjoy doing it and it's informative or whatever, then it really works. But yeah, but we're gonna go to a quick commercial break. Don't forget though, if you do want a new scarf for PS, you know, PlayStation 4, it's looming. You got to get one, or you want to get yourself some G Fuel. Use code STiKS for 10% off G Fuel, as demonstrated by Kingdom, or you can get 5% off scarf with the code STiKS as well. But we'll be back straight after this quick commercial.
Guess who's back? No, I'm just joking.
I have yet
Welcome
to see
back to
these
the
transitions.
STiKS Live, as everyone cuts me off. Hitch already thought we were back, but we weren't. We were still in a commercial, but I can now tell you we are back. So yeah, but I hope you all had a good tea break, as I'd like to say, because apparently I'm stereotypically drink tea because we're British, Mike. I don't know about you, but I don't drink a lot of tea.
I drink a lot of tea. I eat a lot of crumpets. So.
Oh, okay. Well, you just
What is a
ruined it.
crumpet?
But welcome back to the STiKS Live, guys. We're gonna kind of move on to talk a bit about Black Ops 3 now. Obviously, the game came out on Friday. I was super pumped, and then found out that I couldn't play it because there was server problems, but eventually got it sorted. Guys, what have your initial thoughts been of the release of Black Ops 3?
I think it's
Mike, or someone.
I think it's fun to watch.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed, 100%.
To be honest, like I play, but I don't play that much. Like if you look at AW, I just watched like videos and streams all day, every day.
I can agree to that as well.
I think it's like
it's
my ability to play and the time I have to play is minimal. So it's like I'll often just have like another laptop up with or a tablet up with like a stream on or YouTube videos. And when I saw the beta, I was worried that the characters were too thin. I know that sounds really weird, but after watching like montages and stuff, I just like how it's not a totally traditional Call of Duty where it's all on the ground, and you know there's obviously all these different things that can happen, like the specialist abilities, but it is more of a Call of Duty. The guns sound like more Call of Duty. The maps look really good. They play well. So yeah, watching like some pro scrims, like watching Money 8s and just regular 8s, it just seems to be it's a lot more tactical. And a big decision you can make can cost you the game. Like I don't know if any of you guys saw Sense's video the other day.
Nope.
So basically, they're playing 8. There was like him, Attach, Clayster, Havoc, Apathy, Teep, and someone else. So there's 8 of them in there. And basically, Sensor used his missile wrong at the very end of the game. Like Hellstorm. He used that wrong at the end of the game, and it meant that he didn't put it on the new hard point, which he meant to, and instead he put it on the old one, and it meant that the other team captured it. Now, if he'd done it on the right one, they'd have won that game, and that decision meant it was the difference between it, and it wasn't whether he was winning all these insane amount of gunfights in a hard point like he saw in AW. It was actually tactical thinking, and if he'd been smarter, he would have won that that map basically.
I've seen that happen multiple times. I've seen pros, because I actually have been watching a lot. Like, I like watching this game. And I was watching Eights last night. I've watched Clayster. I've watched Scump. Sensor is a beast on this game from what I've seen so far, which
He'll
is
be back on the sticks then.
crazy. I mean, this dude. I was telling Goalie before we got on the show, like, he had a game yesterday in their Eights lobby where everyone in the lobby was like, "What is Doug doing?" Like, he went 29 and like 7 with 3 minutes and 7 seconds in the hard point, and he just nobody could break it. I mean, and Killa was on the other team trying his hardest, but and he kept getting streaks. Every game I watched, Sensor got streaks every single Eights game that they played. And then when he left, it changed the whole game. Like, Killa now was the person getting more time on the other team, and Scump's team started to lose a little bit. Sensor was that much of a factor. And so I love what's happening right now, because players that were falling in relevance are now like being boosted up because they're good at this game. And I kind of like watching this part of Call of Duty, is who's going to be good. And you can tell at the beginning of the game, like, you know, I've watched Clayster, and he was not, you know, doing that great in my opinion when I was watching him play. Scump was doing amazing. When I watched Nade, he was actually doing amazing too. So I'm kind of interested in seeing where some of these players land, and if they land on teams and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I like the game so far. Like, I really love watching.
I think that's like the interesting point about Call of Duty, because obviously as every game changes, there will be players that fall and rise in Advanced Warfare, Sensor, Teep, Merc, Aches, the list goes on, have, you could argue, fallen, whereas other players, these new players that have come out the gate, some that are obviously under 18, like the E6 boys, have risen, and it's really awesome. But you know, there's always kind of pros and cons. Hitch, did you get to play the beta?
Yeah.
For Black Ops 3. So from the beta to what we have now, like, do you think the beta was definitely worthwhile? Because obviously we haven't had a beta in Call of Duty for many, many, many titles. I think the last one was like World at War or some going way, way back. So like, is there any kind of significant change that you've noticed that has made the beta kind of worthwhile, or is it kind of too early doors still?
Yeah, I think it was definitely worthwhile. We got the launch of the game. The what is the M8 already nerfed, even though it's still godlike. The Razorback is not as dominant anymore, and the sniper rifle is actually usable, whereas in the first day of the beta it was horrible. And it's like, if we hadn't gotten the beta, then it would have been another typical year of Call of Duty where it releases, gets all these problems. We end up banning the M8 or the Razorback. It's like, it's just like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I've been so excited for Black Ops 3 because we're finally getting all of this, like, going above and beyond. All we've had is the bare minimum up until this point, and now it's like our interest is actually being taken. So that's why I'm so excited. I think the beta was an awesome thing.
Awesome. Well, just before we go on, I should probably put a disclaimer out there. We're not really going to be touching on like guns, maps, all that shebang and everything. We're going to mainly focus on esports because that's what we talk about. We do it right. And we don't know what the map sets or anything is going to be either. We don't have any, well, I mean, Hitch and Mike may because they know everything. But me and Kingdom, at least, I think, don't know anything about rule sets, map sets or anything. So honestly, there's no point even asking because we're exactly in the same position as you guys. But I mean, it's worth touching on Activision and Treyarch. Like what Hitch said, it seems like this year is the year they're really going above and beyond with the first announcement of Activision making a specialized esports team that obviously is going to oversee stuff like the COD World League and the prize pools they've announced. We still don't know the full kind of details about COD Champs. We don't know what's going to happen now with MLG, with UMG, with Gfinity, ESL coming into the scene. It can only surely mean just amazing things in terms of Black Ops 3. Like, even if the game is, say, average, let's just say it is even average, with the support we're going to get from the developers, from the publishers, we're surely just going to go in the right direction.
Well, I think it was Hitch. Was it you, Hitch, that tweeted right when the game came out? You tweeted something like, "This is the most support we've ever had at launch."
Ever. We got more support like 4
How many
months
Black Ops
prior
3
to
launch parties were there? Like, I don't know about
Exactly.
you guys in America, but
we got
all
an
over
esports
Europe.
reveal. Like, I don't understand how people were still saying, "Oh, people say this every year. Like, it's just going to be another flop." Like, we got an esports reveal. It was just driving me insane.
It's like they wrote us in their will. Like, let's put it that way. Like, they basically made it firm in their kind of discretion that they cared about esports and they wanted to kind of see it do something. And I think it's been long overdue. I think we can all agree. We switch developers every year, so it's very hard in terms of if the developer and the publisher aren't on the same page. But I mean, Mike,
that's where it ends though. Like now that Activision are basically putting money behind the COD World League, and they've said in one of their FAQs that this is not just like for this year. This is going to be for a number of years, and it's like that's what it's gonna be about. It's going to be about COD World League. It's going to be every year, and it means that next year, Infinity Ward, Activision will go, you've got to do this, this, and this in the game. Otherwise, you're not going to make another game for us again. Because they've seen the power of League of Legends, CS:GO. They know how much money they can make off it, and that's the end of the day. It's a business. They know how good esports is for business, and it's only going to get bigger and better. I mean, I've been to, there's been events, that I've been to where there was, like literally just a few people in a room, and it's like to where it is now, it's nuts. Like even if the stuff like AW kind of things were dying off, everyone knew that we were just waiting for this. And when COD World League got announced, obviously I knew about it. But
what a surprise! Mike knew about it. You probably know about the next title, about all the plans for that, and you're just like, okay, well I'm going to schedule a tweet for 2016 November. Okay, I'll schedule it for 2017. And this is getting boring now, guys. I've known about this for a year.
But it's just there's so much. But there's obviously a lot that needs to be worked on as well. And it's not going to be a perfect year, and I don't want people to think that. I don't want people to think that this is going to be like, we're suddenly going to be getting like 30,000 people, like League of Legends, in a stadium watching it. That's not going to be the case. It's going to be very similar to last year. It's just going to be a lot better. But it's not going to be how big you think it's going to be. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's going to be, now we've got that support, we can build on it. But if you get too big, too quick, then you don't have any support, and then you've gone. And that's one thing the Call of Duty scene's been good at, is that we've built it up and up and up, and we have a steady base. But we just need to be careful not to over egg it and be like, we'll just not bother with organizations anymore because Activision are paying for all our flights, like stuff like that, basically.
It's not taking it for granted, I think. I think none of us can take for granted kind of where we are right now, although we do endlessly just seem to see people complain because obviously people are perfectionists, they want this, that, and the other, and they expect it. But the biggest thing I always remember, when kind of I want to moan or complain, I always go back to, I think it was like UMG Chicago or something in Black Ops 2. We hit 10K views there, and it was massive. It was like absolutely crazy. And I always just go back to that moment and think like, how kind of proud the community was of how much we achieved back then, and 3 years later we are where we are now. What is just crazy, because the growth has been ridiculous, and although the amount we're growing may have declined, we're still, I think, growing. And I always bring back to the point that even though viewership has been down in Advanced Warfare, being very evident, we're still growing in terms of the amount of organizations in the scene. Like today we had who was it? The Luminosity. And we had Complexity come back into the scene the other day even. Sorry. I
actually know of an organization, if anyone wants to contact them, that is looking for a team.
Okay, go for it.
Just a small team of H2K who've got a League of Legends team. I actually contacted them and asked them if they were interested, and they said they were very interested in having a COD team. So if you know anyone that's interested.
Yeah, but just back to my point, like, we're still growing in teams. We're still growing in the amount of players we have. We're still growing in the amount of organizations we have that are providing events. The amount of different LAN providers that come into the team during Advanced Warfare has been absolutely phenomenal. We're still growing in terms of content creators and people like yourselves, Hitch and Mike, who put out endless amounts of content for the viewing of anyone that loves COD esports. And I think people forget this and just look at kind of the big things, if you will, and don't look at kind of the little grassroots things that ultimately kind of build the platform.
I think what you got to remember as well is that you look at League of Legends, you look at CS:GO. Do you think people stop complaining when it gets big? No, they just complain about something else. Don't worry about what people are complaining about. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep supporting what you believe in, and keep supporting what you're doing. And then eventually, it'll get bigger and bigger. When I started doing this, it wasn't like, oh well, one day I'll be.
It's probably a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. It was a hobby, like it's something I did. I was interested in it. I wanted to
Exactly how
report on
I
it.
think most of us started out.
Yeah, exactly. Then you get how pretty much
Yep.
everyone in the COD scene starts out. I don't think
Yeah,
anyone's
it's
just
just a
come into
hobby,
it.
Yeah.
and they
It's like the ultimate hobby based job.
no one just starts off like getting paid or ending in Mike's position where you've
Well,
had
unless
endless years of experience.
But yeah, it just
Or Kingdom, yeah.
and the thing is, it's going to get bigger and bigger, but you just can't. I'm just worried that people are going to like just expect everything, and then look at CS:GO, look at League of
I
Legends.
think
They still have their own problems at the end of the day.
we get through Advanced Warfare. The thing that bugged me the most was the amount of times we got compared to CS:GO, because we're FPS, we're very like for like. Why are they getting this and we're not? People don't understand that CS has been around since the late 90s, and they've been able to get to where they are through kind of, well, first of all, only having a few titles, what's enabled them to kind of perfect the titles that they do have, but also just through the teams they have and everything. And people think that just because they had that means that we deserve it too, when it's not the case. You have to like earn the kind of, I don't know, you just have to kind of earn it rather than just expect it.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, Kingdom. I have no idea.
Somebody asked where the Kingdom Thug emote was, so I just did it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I don't have.
Does that
Kingdom
hit
emotes.
your sleeve?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just talking
That's
of
me.
Black Ops 3, one thing I think that would be really beneficial, and it's just a shame that it's not the case at the moment, but hopefully it will be in the future, is that you can't like in Halo how you can get the stats from a game, and you can view it online, or at least you could. I have not played the new one, but at least you could have back in the day. Like even on Halo 2, you could get all the stats. I think it's the API feed, and like if we had that, we could have betting, and then betting would just bring a huge amount of more people in. It'd be insane, and yeah, have people like accused of match fixing and stuff, but that's at the end of the day still publicity in my eyes. And
Is crowdfunding still just a rumor? Like, or is has that rumor been killed?
to be honest, I've not heard anything about it. It's not been, I don't think we'll see it this year.
Where did Seth and Hector and them get their intel from?
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe
like,
Hitch can shine a bit more light, because obviously in the video you put out today, or Optic put out today, you obviously. I know I was looking away now, but you were talking. Well, they were talking about.
he's like, what?
Well, they were speculating, we should say, because nothing they said was confirmed. They were just kind of speculating about kind of crowdfunding. Can you kind of give any more insight into kind of what they were saying? And
all I know is that Krem seemed very adamant that it was going to happen. Hector, or Seth, was very adamant that it wasn't going to happen, and Hector had no idea that it was going to happen. So I have no idea what's going to happen with that. So I don't have any insight at all.
They could easily do it. All they have to do is say, "Here's a supply pack, buy it," or supply drops, right? Buy it, and it's a special edition like they do with Halo. We'll give 15 or 25% of the money to COD champs, but whether they will or not, who knows?
The fact that there are people.
Go ahead, Hitch.
Sorry. The fact that there are people in Activision that are their actual job, what are they getting paid for now, is eSports. You got to think. It would be absolutely ridiculous for us to think that they haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They have 100% had hundreds of meetings about it, without a doubt. And then it's all about whether they want to do it this year, whether they want to see how it goes, whether they want to, how the league's going to play out. Is it going to be a complete flop? Is there going to be? They're going to have to make it smaller. They're going to have to make it bigger. Is the demand going to be too much? This year is, I think, personally, just like a testing year to see what they can do. I mean, I've their PR guy, Robert. I just email him all the time with questions, and he's like, "I'll get back to you." And it's like, fair enough.
We haven't even thought about that.
We haven't thought about it yet. Let me get back to you. And they do, to be fair, but it's just like we have to understand that this is such a fresh concept for them, and you just can't.
You can't rush it. You have to do it
right, because those games have been esports for years.
But Mike, don't you think that they've been meeting about this for years, and they just haven't done it yet?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean because
last year with advanced supply drops, like that was a good idea, but it was a stupid idea because they didn't give you the ability to outright purchase something you wanted. Like when I go to the grocery store, if I'm hungry, I'm gonna buy stuff.
You don't have to kind of chance getting your groceries.
Yeah,
So
but
then
that's the
skins,
thing. It's like
skins,
if I
skins.
go in to get, if I'm like, I want the Optic like exosuit, and I go to buy it, maybe I'll buy Denial at the same time. Maybe I'll buy 5
Yeah.
advanced supply drops. But the way they did it, and I decided to be a rebel. I have not bought a single advanced supply drop. I finally got the Denial wear, but I've never gotten Optic. But I finally got an AK. The game's done. You know, we're on to Black Ops 3, and I just got an AK like last week. And so,
AK's not long been up. Yeah.
well, it's frustrating. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Why would you not give us the opportunity to buy what we want?
Premium's so angry. He's letting it all out. Steam's coming out of his ear.
Let me
Let's
put
not.
it this way. Well, no, I'm not going to bash Activision. I know, Hex once told me, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you." But for me, as a business person, thinking business minded, I don't know what the stopping blocks are for saying if you want to purchase this, you can purchase this exact thing, and how that wouldn't have more sales than saying buy 25 advanced supply drops. And maybe now, of course, pro players are going to spend all their money on it and get people to donate to their streams so they can buy more, because it's like CS:GO. You don't know what you're going to get. It's a mystery. But I do think there are some things, if we do crowdfunding, that we could say, okay, you want an Optic camo paint job on your gun or whatever, you can purchase it. You want Hitch's little logo on something, you can purchase it, as a part of an Optic pack.
Definitely not.
I don't like. I don't know why
Hitch
they don't.
isn't selling the rights to that.
People
I think
buy
we have to
Circle
remember
stuff
though.
too. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we have to remember though, like we are still making steps in the right direction. Like we in Advanced Warfare, we got Denial and Optic Exo kind of outfits. That a couple games ago would have seemed kind of near enough impossible because of just the way things were. And I would expect there to be some sort of kind of eSports DLC, camos, whatever, something or other in Black Ops 3. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't. Obviously, crowdfunding, that's a different question, because obviously I think we don't know what Activision are thinking. We don't know what Treyarch are thinking. There's a lot that I think they've surprised people with, in all fairness, with Black Ops 3, and a lot that they kind of come out with that in a game that's been what, like the 12th Call of Duty title or something, and they're still bringing out new things like the free running mode and all sorts, and they're still developing zombies and stuff. But that's off the topic. I think they probably are thinking about these things, but it's more they're trying to want to do it right. I always go back to MLG because people continuously used to bash MLG about doing things wrong with the Pro League and stuff, but they were pioneers in what they were doing with Call of Duty. They're going to make mistakes, but the thing is that you should judge them by is how they react to the mistakes they make and how they go on to then kind of rectify what they did or whatever.
Agreed.
I think with MLG, that's the thing. Like, they never ever got the praise that they deserved, but at the same time, they still haven't. There's been a lot of mistakes they did make, but there's been a lot of things they've done amazingly right. And I think that's what's going to happen with COD World League. There's going to be I can't swear. There's going to be loads wrong, but there's also going to be a load right. That's the reality. It's not going to be perfect, but the best way to express how it's not perfect is to email someone, write about it, like express your opinion. Just don't go on Twitter and go Activision is shit, because that's the only thing you can say. Like, you need to make sure that you channel that constructive criticism in the right way. And I'll be doing it. And if you want to write an article and put it on Deserto, I'll maybe publish it if I don't need to edit it for 19 hours.
Tip of the hat there.
Mike gives me $20 for cussing.
No.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's going in the
No,
jar.
he owes you a content idea. That's what he owes you.
We're gonna steal those ideas
a
again.
lengthy content brainstorm after this meeting is adjourned.
Someone said Hitch thinks he's too good for them.
So kind of moving away from publishers and just the people that make the game. Black Ops 3, we don't really know a lot in terms of esports. We know obviously the COD League is going to start in January. We know I think the qualifiers, I think somewhere it was announced, are going to be sometime around December. But we still don't know really what's going to happen with MLG, with UMG, and Gfinity. Do you think that they're maybe going to take a step back, especially someone like MLG, who I think we can all agree have done more than enough to kind of show Activision what is capable with Call of Duty? Are they going to they're surely going to have to take a step back with Activision now stepping up?
Who, MLG?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. What's going to happen is I think there's still going to be demand.
Mike
They're
knows.
still, they're
I'm
still
just
going
gonna
to
make a new thing called Mike Knows, and it's just gonna be. I'm gonna just tweet it says Mike Knows.
there's still going to be a demand for MLG to do what they do. They're obviously still going to work on a number of different games that they've got. I mean, they're massive in Counter Strike, for example. They're about to,
Yep.
if rumors are true, they're about to sign a massive global deal with a number of different tournament organizers to try and rival the likes of ESL, and DreamHack. But with MLG, you've got to remember that ESL are only doing the Pro League, the Pro Division, and that the Challenger events, which is going to be hundreds, well, not hundreds, there's going to be a lot of Challenger events across the world. They need to be ran by someone, and at the end of the day, if ESL are only running the Pro Division, then they need people who know how to run open tournaments in North America. Who they're going to go to? You're not going to turn down MLG just because we've got no reason, have you?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this whole thing, if Activision, they've sponsored tournaments before that you probably don't even realize. Tournaments in Europe, tournaments in Australia, tournaments in North America. A lot of the time, Activision have put up the prize higher than it maybe would have been. And the reality is, this is going to happen again, and the Challenger events are going to be. There's going to be a number of events, and I'll bet money. I don't know, but I bet money that MLG will be hosting those events, and they've even alluded to it as well. So it's not even a secret, really.
No, it's not a secret. I just wonder, because I know that MLG originally wanted that ESL contract. Like they wanted to not do LANs anymore. They wanted to only do broadcasting, but they got the opposite. So they ended up now that went to ESL. So they sent like all of their broadcast people, which I think is awesome about ESL, is that they actually grabbed as many people that wanted to leave MLG. They took them, and I think that's pretty cool. And they got Revan, and they got Courage, and so I thought that was pretty dope. The only thing I wonder is, can MLG afford to do LANs without broadcasting Call of Duty? And if they get that big contract you're talking about for CS, I guess that would help. But I just don't know, because
They still
switching
have game battles.
PlayStation and buying all
Like,
the it's just, well, yeah,
they still have stream platform. They still have technically game battles, what I'm pretty sure is a affiliation of MLG or somewhere or other. And obviously UMG the same. Like if UMG have to kind of, for whatever reason, reduce the amount of events from what it's been like 4 for the last 3 years that they've always done. They've still got UMG Online, and it's like Gfinity. If Gfinity have to take a step back because ESL pushing through in Europe, then they've still got Gfinity Online, what literally all the Call of Duty players at least play on the cups every single night. So I think that all these kind of orgs have thought about, okay, so what if we do lose this? What if we no longer have this? They've kind of thought about this, and they've kind of made them stay sustainable and so that they can stay relevant, what I think is quite nice.
You've got to remember as well that MLG will get paid handsomely to run those Challenger events as well.
Yeah.
They're not going to be doing them for free. And, I think there's just people need, again, and this is going to be something they'll maybe figure out. Maybe they'll work out we need more or less of this idea. But, I think with the COD World League, I think we're going to see a massive increase, especially with viewers through the PlayStation. And they're also going to have a lot more players from around the world, because PlayStation is in other parts of the world, like Brazil, like South Africa, is a lot more popular than Xbox. So I think we're just going to see everything's just going to increase, basically.
Yeah. I think there was somewhere I found a statistic about kind of the sales, and it was quite funny because obviously PS4 there was more sales for Black Ops 3, but the margin between Xbox and PS3 was actually quite close. There was only about 4 or 5% in it, and then there was PS3 and Xbox 360 that shared about 8% of overall sales for Black Ops 3. Was quite interesting. But talking more about events, in terms of production, Hitch, you can probably maybe filter in on this one. Are we at the pinnacle of what we can do in terms of production for events? We've obviously seen pretty much every event provider kind of up their content throughout the years. Are we kind of at a point where Activision can't come blow all the content out of the water and just make production amazing?
No, there's no way. Because you got to think. You're saying now that Activision is getting involved, do you think Activision's production is going to blow what we've seen so far out of the water? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, well, I'm saying, what kind of do you see with Activision in terms of production? Because obviously MLG, Gfinity, all these places have put up a very good show, generally speaking. So like, is there anything more from you attending so many events, you as well, Mike, that you thought, hey, if they did this, that'd be a really sick idea?
I think, like you said, it's almost a pinnacle of production. If you look at, for example, football, you know, how they do, or regular sports, should I say, and how they do it is very similar. I don't think that is an issue. I think there needs to be more analysis, more in depth about what's happening, and then I think just more like VTs about what's happening. I think it does happen. It's happening more often. I don't think production's really an issue at all, but it just needs to be. You know, for example, I don't watch League of Legends, but I watched the whole start of it just because I enjoyed the whole intro and the production of it. And as long as we can transfer that to someone else, then if that viewer turns off after the production ends, then fine. As long as as long as they've watched it at some point.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, Hitch, is there, from attending Worlds, like, is there anything more you could potentially see happening in terms of production that would just make?
No,
I don't know.
I will back MLG's production for the rest of my life. Like MLG's production is
100%.
pristine. I mean, if you remember, we were on Twitch forever, and then the very first time, what was it? Full Sail? Was that the first MLG.TV event, or is that the like? Or they started doing like their own production.
Yeah.
It was something about the Full Sail tournament, and I was remember watching it, and I was just like mind blown because they really took it up to like the next level, and they're still doing that. I mean, and it's not just Call of Duty. The Smash side of things at Worlds was incredible. It was one of the best produced Smash events I've ever seen. And then also, I don't know a dang thing about Dota, but there were like 17 screens of like the Dota players, and you got to see their players move individually. It was insane. So I don't know. I think you can't. There's if anybody says anything bad about MLG's production, you can't take them seriously.
Okay. So I just want to talk about one more thing before we kind of wrap up this week's show. What is to talk about streaming and kind of what we're going to see within Black Ops 3. We can't obviously, well, Mike, as he knows everything, probably already knows, but I myself don't know what's going to happen in terms of streaming. There's a lot of rumors and speculation going around that we're going back to Twitch, but obviously it's very hard to say because, say, MLG host an event, are they really going to stream it on Twitch rather than MLG, etc., etc.? But either way we look at it, I personally believe that this year is going to be great in terms of viewership because we're going to be able to hopefully see events on multiple platforms. Would you guys agree if that was to be?
I think the more platforms COD streamed on, the better, because the more audience that it gets. I think you stream it as, I hope it's on all three. I hope it's on YouTube, Twitch, and MLG all at the same time, because I think that's the best way to grow it. People can choose which interface they like. People can use, basically decide what what they want to watch and which from which angle. And I'd quite like to see multiple broadcasters in the future as well. So like, say there's a COD World League event, you could like watch maybe the Deserto production of it, or you could maybe watch like MLG's production of it. Just kind of a little bit different, if that makes sense.
Anything to add, Hitch?
I don't even remember what your question was.
So I was talking about streaming and how
on platforms.
Yeah,
right?
If we're on multiple platforms, that's surely got to be a good thing. Like, rather than having this battle of Twitch versus MLG, Azubu, YouTube, whatever. Like, it's surely just got to be a good thing if we can kind of get to a point where, like the Halo championship
Series.
World Championships is going to be streamed on multiple platforms come the end of Halo 5 with its first year's life cycle. If we can get to a point where that, we're surely kind of in the best position to kind of be accessible by everyone.
Yeah. Anything that's non-exclusive is amazing.
Yeah, exclusivity is the worst.
It's the killer of growth.
Okay. Nice input. Kingdom's typing away. But okay, we're gonna pretty much end out this stream, I should say. Basically, I have one last question for you guys, Hitch and Mike. Kingdom, I guess you can kind of filter into this as well. My last question, going back to kind of talking about journalism, what was or has been the greatest moment in terms of your esports journalism career and Kingdom just in general at LAN? What is the greatest moment be? We'll start with Hitch, then go Mike, Kingdom, and finish it out.
The greatest moment of my
Journalism career.
Does
Your
it
time
have to
in
be
Call of
journalism
Duty.
specific?
What?
Does it have
No,
to
you
be
can. I mean,
Just
It can be a
career in
LAN,
general.
it can be a moment.
Actually, so I was at COD XP in 2011 in LA, and there was a journalist there from Yahoo at the time, and this is obviously back in 2011, so like obviously still doing this part time and everything like that. And this guy was like, we were watching a few teams play, and this guy was like, because I had my camera with me. He's like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm from like this website, does Call of Duty. He's like, oh, I'm from Yahoo. And he was like, oh, what website was it? And I was like, oh, Deserto. And he was like, oh, wow. And he like pulled out his phone and he had Deserto up, and he'd been like he'd been looking at everything that I'd been writing about like all the team, because I'd done like a whole preview about every single team, and like he was like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like I really like this. Like blah blah blah. So just to be able to know that some sort of mainstream journalist was like reading my stuff was like really cool to hear. And also, it's been happening quite a lot recently as well. Whenever we go out with the players, like I've maybe like expressed an opinion about something about Desert or something, and I actually have like an unnamed player on my phone. I'll never post it, obviously, but I have an unnamed player on my phone who's wearing this hat, and he's just shouting about how great Deserto is. And it's like, this is like one of the most famous players in the world. Like,
Oh my lord.
and like, and it's like that kind of thing as well is awesome. So, there's just basically like, they're the two if you were to like take them. But events wise for this year, my highlight was probably ESWC. Just seeing how that crowd reacted was just absolutely insane. So that's probably my highlights.
That's not a
all
bad
time.
memory, in all fairness, to have someone from Yahoo come up to you and be like, hey, I've been reading your work. Hitch,
Yeah.
did we come to a decision?
All right, I'm gonna say first of all, my actual career in esports in general.
That's fine,
obviously,
that's fine.
this past week, there you
go.
It's
That's
been
awesome.
absolutely like it
Wait,
hasn't been just.
You didn't mean it this week, Hitch.
It hasn't been just like a single moment or whatever. It's just like completely been life changing, and all of these all these different doors that have been opening, and I'm trying to hit it as hard as I possibly can. So yeah, that's probably been the highlight. As far as journalism, I do want to answer that as well. I did a mean tweets video at UMG Niagara, the very first UMG Niagara, and like I remember approaching Hector, never really met him, and he was like, "Oh man, I love dope idea." Because if Hector hears a creative idea that you thought of, he's all for it. That's why he loves the Deserto guys. And then also like my first interview at Orlando with Nadeshot, it was just like weird because like I had just started Intel, and like there was a big video idea with the interview with Nadeshot, so I had to like pretty much get into my A game and ask him the appropriate questions. So those two moments are like highlights for me as far as journalism.
And Kingdom, best moment while
I have so
being
many.
relevant?
It's gotta be the Hex 1v1.
The blacklisted video that I recorded in my closet.
In your closet?
But added probably.
Did I miss that? Wait, was this
2,000 subs to my channel because Hex and Nade and everybody on Optic except maybe Big T and Proof tweeted out, "I like your content, good video, blah blah blah." They all liked it. It was a huge deal. And then I got 2 days later, Hex said DM. My first Skype call with him, the first time he came on the STiKS, when me and Goalie came up with this ridiculous idea to do the STiKS. When the first time to be honest, and I'm not lying, the first time I digitally met Hitch by watching one of his videos and realized like, oh my crap, like this kid has a lot of potential. Like it was weird. It was like I'm watching his video and he's in his room doing the most that he could with his little curly hair and blue jacket, and UMG logo and was just
Terrible
doing it.
facial
And I
hair.
was like,
Terrible.
what? And watching his career as people just Hex is the first person to actually be smart enough to say, I'm going to invest in this guy. Like, the other companies that Hitch had to go through, yes, they were stepping stones, and yes, they were, of course, extreme blessings in his life because he got to show his potential. But I was telling all of them, you better grab this guy. Like, I don't know why they didn't.
We try to buy him, but he's not for sale. Unfortunately, it's really
No,
frustrating.
yeah, he likes green. And when goalie landed with this new little thing called Codpedia, which was, I think, owned by Curse at the time, and he just started as like a helper with their social media, and now he's goalie. Just everything. This whole freaking community has been amazing. All the pros we've had on, getting on MLG was cool. Being on ESR the first time, that was a big deal for me personally. And being able to sit there with Puckett, I was so freaking nervous. It was hilarious, but yeah, I all of it, you know, this whole thing has been a wild ride, and my whole COD experience has been an amazing impact on my life. Oh, and lastly, when me and Hitch got to sign somebody's Astro speaker tags in UMG Cali, that was crazy.
Whenever someone asks Hitch for like an autograph, I'm like, do you know who he is though? Like, is it just because you think
he does it every single time
because he's got an optic top on?
He goes, "Are you sure you know? Are you sure you know who he is?"
Oh, that's hilarious. I think they were all great answers. I'm not personally going to answer this. I'm going to dodge the bullet because I really don't have anything special. I'm just me. I sit in a chair.
Weren't you excited when we hit you up for this? You were this Brit making videos.
That was probably pretty exciting. That was pretty. Yeah, I'll say that. Yeah. I've had a couple of things, but meh. You don't need to know about it. But yeah, we're going to pretty much end up the show. I want to thank personally Hitch for making a return. We understand you're a very busy man, and we really do appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and kind of join us and talk about things. Mike as well. First time being on the show. How was it?
Yeah, it was good. Well, the reason they wouldn't let me on the show before is because they thought I was going to swear all the time, and I only swore once. And I
must admit, you've done pretty well.
Only lost $20 today.
Or an idea to Hitch.
We'll talk
You're not Benson, and you're not Parasite, who both made my editing like forever to bleep out. Like when Parasite was on and when Benson was on, I was like every 5 minutes like blanking out the words. Now we just normally just let them slide right now at this point, but those guys really, that was back when I was trying to actually edit out the cussing. It was too hard.
Well, no, thanks for letting me on the show. It was only after weeks of pestering that they let me on. I'm probably the only person.
In all fairness, I only found out last week, and I straight away hit you up. Did I not?
Yeah, you did.
I only found out last week, so that's my excuse because I didn't know about Landon. I blame Landon. He's not here.
Blame Landon. Blame everybody.
Yeah, blame Landon. It's no longer blame Goldie. But yeah, Goldie deserves a shout out as well. Goldie does pretty much a lot of this behind the scenes and doesn't get the credit he deserves. A lot of new kind of transitions and stuff he's implemented were absolutely sick. I don't know how he does them, as he deserves a bit of a round of applause. And there's so much.
Someone just said in the chat, Mike doesn't seem the type to kiss. So
have you not seen his content? Oh.
Sorry.
Do you know Mike? Do you know who you're getting an interview from and getting a signature from?
I'd like to give a shout out to Goldie's height because he's actually a lot taller than you expected.
Yes, that is very true.
I was very surprised. So,
Goldie's 6 foot.
Goalie is tall.
I was like, 6'2", 6'3".
There we are. You used to be a hockey player, didn't you?
6'3" with shoes on.
Yeah, 6'3" with shoes on. Yeah, definitely.
Jesus. Right. Anyway, we're going to end out this week's The STiKS Live. Thank you, everyone so much for watching. As what we normally do, we just kind of give our outros. You can shout out whoever you would like at all, as Kingdom is not paying attention and swinging in his chair and it's getting annoying. Don't always do. Anyway, I'm going to go to Hitch first, then we go to Kingdom, then to Michael, and then I'm going to end out the show. You have about 30 seconds. You can shout out whoever you want. Go.
All right, so obviously you probably all know this is coming. Thank you guys insanely, a lot, with all of my heart. Thank you guys for all the support on my personal content and the Optic gaming content. We released a new series today on the Optic Nation channel called Vision. It's going to be like a documentary kind of thing, so you get to see what it's like in the Optic house and the Optic organization in general. And then also, I have, in the last 5 days, I've gone from 7,500 subscribers, and I just broke 20K today. So it's been an insane road, and I can't thank you guys enough. So
You're almost at 21, I think. I just
How do you
looked
do
this
it?
morning. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Kingdom.
What?
What?
Are you telling Michael for swearing? You're just as bad.
Thank you, Gamma. Bleep, bleep, bleep. No, if you guys ever, one of you ever hears me swear, it'll probably be Goalie would be the only person that would ever hear it. But make sure you guys use our codes, blah, blah, blah. You see them all down on the bottom. Thank you, Hitch and Mike and Tommy, as always. I think, Mike, you should think about coming on more often.
Yeah, I'm easy.
Good guess, good perspective for us, and it'll be interesting when the game actually starts to see what you got to say. Thank you all for watching. Great viewers, great viewership today, and I don't think MLG tweeted us out, so appreciate all of you guys, and I think that's it. Yep, that's it.
Mike?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on, obviously. Thanks everyone in the comments who said nice things, and if you haven't, fair enough. I'm open to feedback. Just obviously with Deserto, what we're trying to do is we're trying to be as big as possible to make the community as big as possible. We can't get bigger without you guys getting bigger. So, I firmly support people like telling me what things should be different or what they liked or what they didn't like. And yeah, just please visit Deserto.com, subscribe on YouTube, and yeah, thanks to everyone. Follow me on Twitter at Deserto Mike, and free Mike from Reddit.
I'm not sure how to take that, but I'm going to end out the show before Mike says something I probably shouldn't. So thank you everyone for watching. My name has been Tommy. A massive thank you to Mike and Hitch for coming on. Really do appreciate it. I love speaking to you guys. Massive shout out again to Goalie. Doesn't deserve this. Well, he does deserve credit, but he doesn't probably get as much as he deserves. And also the YouTube viewers. There's been a lot of YouTube views recently on the most recent shows, and we appreciate it as well. You're not forgotten just because we're all gone and doing something else. So yeah, thank you to you as well. And lastly, if you want to get a Scuff 4PS, whatever it's called, I don't know, I don't even have one myself, or get some G Fuel, use code STiKS, 10% off G Fuel and 5% off your Scuff gaming product. So my name's been Tommy, this has been Hitch, Michael, and Anthony, and Goalie as well, and we'll see you later. And as always, I'm going to do my outro. Have a good day.
Peace.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.